Her mother-in-law sold her for being barren, but the Alpha King everyone desired chose her. A young widow was accused of the worst sin an Omega could bear, failing to give heirs. Rejected by her mother-in-law and condemned to be traded like property, Saren seemed destined for silence. But an unexpected moment at the Moon Court gathering changed everything. Hey, quick question, are you already feeling the injustice? Thank you so much for being here. It really means the world to me. I'm working toward 1,000 subscribers. And if Saren's story is already pulling at your heart, please hit that subscribe button for Ariel Romance Library, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Alright, thank you. Now let's get back to what happens when the Omega they called Barren becomes the queen they can't ignore. High in the Barren Mountains, where winter never truly releases its grip, stands Frosthold. The fortress rises from the frozen earth like a monument to ancient power. Its towers carved from stone so dark it seems to swallow moonlight. Silver banners bearing the crest of a crowned wolf snap in the bitter wind. And beneath them, Omegas move through shadowed corridors with their eyes fixed on the ground, as if looking up might invite punishment. This is where Saren Dune waits to learn her fate. Her room sits in the farthest corner of the servant's wing, a space so small and cold that frost patterns bloom on the inside of the window each morning. The bed is narrow, the blanket thin, and at its foot rests a folded cloak that once belonged to her dead mate. She hasn't moved it in 3 months. The fabric still holds the faintest trace of cedar and rain. Kaelin's scent, though it grows weaker every day. Soon there will be nothing left of him except memory, and even that the pack seems determined to erase. Kaelin Reese Dune died on a border raid 6 months ago. An ambush led by Ronin Drax of the Southern Territories, they said. Swift, brutal, over, before anyone could send for help. 20 wolves went out that morning. 14 came back. Kaelin was not among them. Saren learned of his death when a messenger knocked on her door at dawn and told her to prepare herself for morning rites. No one asked if she was all right. No one sat with her while she washed his blood from the shirt they returned to her. She folded it carefully, tucked it away, and when the sun set, she walked to the moon temple alone and lit a candle that burned all night. That was when the whispers started. Barren. The word slithered through Frosthold like poison in water. At first, it was only glances, the way servants would pause when she entered a room, then look away quickly. Then it became murmurs behind hands, conversations that stopped the moment she approached. Finally, it solidified into open disdain. No pup, no heir, no legacy. Cursed bloodline, weak-blooded Omega, moon-touched and broken. The pack measured her worth by what she could not give them, and found her worthless. Saren stopped attending meals in the common hall, stopped walking through the main corridors. She kept to her small room, to the shadows, to the spaces where no one would notice her fading. Her wolf, once bright and quick beneath her skin, grew dull. It still stirred sometimes, a low ache in her bones when the moon rose full, but it felt distant now, muffled, as though it too had learned that there was no place for them here. The truth was more complicated, more painful, but Saren had learned long ago that the pack had no interest in truth. She had been pregnant once. It was early, barely 2 months, but she had known. She felt it, a small flutter of life beneath her ribs, a heartbeat that matched her own. She told Kaelin first, whispered it to him one night when they lay together in the dark, and he had pressed his palm to her stomach with such tenderness that she wept. They were going to have a family. They were going to build something beautiful. Then Saphira Dune, Kaelin's mother, found out. Saphira did not celebrate. She did not offer blessings or prepare a nursery. Instead, she tightened her control, demanding Saren attend every court function, every formal dinner, every dawn patrol briefing. When Saren asked for rest, Saphira's smile turned cold. Dune women do not hide when duty calls. If you carry my son's heir, you will prove yourself strong enough to bear it. So Saren stood, for hours, through ceremonies and speeches and political negotiations that had nothing to do with her. She stood while her back screamed, while her body begged for stillness, while something deep inside her whispered that this was wrong, that she needed to stop, to rest, to protect the fragile life growing within her. She ignored it. She obeyed. She stood straight and kept her face calm and pretended everything was fine, until the night it wasn't. It happened during a moon feast. Saren was standing in the great hall, Saphira at the head table, when the first sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. She gasped, gripping the edge of a stone column, and felt warmth spreading down her thighs. Blood. Too much blood. She made it to an empty corridor before her legs gave out. She collapsed on the cold stone floor, biting down on her own wrist to muffle the sounds clawing up her throat. The pain was overwhelming, a tearing sensation that felt like her body was being ripped apart from the inside. No one came. She bled alone in the dark, her wolf howling silently in her chest. And when a healer finally found her an hour later, it was already over. The tiny heartbeat was gone. The life she had tried so desperately to protect had slipped away, and all she was left with was grief so heavy it felt like drowning. The healer, an older woman named Mira, knelt beside her and whispered words Saren would never forget. "Your body may heal, child. Your heart, I don't know." Saphira never mentioned it again. She never apologized, never acknowledged what she had done. Instead, she began calling Saren Barren in private, and soon the rest of the pack followed. The miscarriage became proof of failure, not tragedy, evidence of weakness, not cruelty, and Saren, too exhausted to fight, let them believe the lie. Now, 3 months after Kaylin's death, Saren stands in her cold room and stares at the moon through the frosted window. She wonders if this is all there is, a life of silence and shadows, of being blamed for things she could not control, of waiting for some undefined punishment that seems inevitable. She doesn't have to wait long. The summons comes at dusk. A servant knocks on her door, barely meeting her eyes, and tells her that Saphira Dune requires her presence in the high hall immediately. Saren's stomach twists. She pulls on the simplest dress she owns, black wool that hangs loose on her frame, and follows the servant through winding corridors lit by flickering torches. The high hall sits at the center of Frosthold, a vast chamber with vaulted ceilings and walls lined with the skulls of ancient enemies. Firelight dances across the stone, casting long shadows that seem to reach for her as she enters. Saphira stands near the hearth, her silver hair braided in the traditional style of the Dune bloodline, her posture rigid and regal. She does not look at Saren when she speaks. "You've been a burden long enough." Saren's hands tighten at her sides. She says nothing. "My son is dead because of Ronan Drax," Saphira continues, her voice sharp and cold. "The southern packs owe us a blood debt. Drax has offered compensation, but gold and land mean nothing when measured against a life." Saren's heart begins to pound. She knows where this is going, so I have offered him something else. Saphira finally turns, her gaze cutting through Saren like a blade. "You," the word lands like a physical blow. "You will go to the Drax stronghold as payment for the debt your mate left behind. Ronan has agreed to take you. He leaves in 3 days." Saren's breath catches. She wants to scream, to demand how Saphira can do this, how she can trade another wolf like property, like an object with no will or voice. But the words stick in her throat, tangled with shock and disbelief. "You have no heirs, no value to this pack," Saphira says, her tone almost bored. "At least this way you serve a purpose." "You're selling me," Saren whispers, her voice barely audible. "I'm settling a debt." Saphira's expression doesn't change. "Be grateful Drax was willing to accept damaged goods." Damaged goods. The words echo in Saren's mind long after Saphira dismisses her. She walks back to her room in a daze, her body moving on instinct while her thoughts spiral. She is being traded to Ronan Drax, the wolf who killed her mate, as if she is nothing more than livestock. No choice, no say. Just another transaction in a world that has never seen her as anything but a womb that failed to produce. She sits on the edge of her bed, staring at Kaylin's folded cloak, and feels something inside her crack open. Not grief this time. Something sharper, hotter, anger. She has been silent for so long, swallowing every insult, every cruelty, every injustice, because she believed that if she stayed small and quiet and obedient, maybe they would stop punishing her. But they haven't stopped. They never will. And now they want to take even the illusion of choice away from her. A knock at the door interrupts her thoughts. The same servant from earlier, looking uncomfortable. "Saphira Dune has decreed you will attend the gathering of alphas tomorrow night," the servant says quickly. "She says it is your last night of dignity before you are sent south." The servant leaves before Saren can respond. The gathering of alphas. A formal event held under the open sky at the Moon Court, where pack leaders from across the realm come to negotiate treaties, display power, and reinforce alliances. It is a place of pageantry and politics, where every wolf wears their finest and every interaction is a calculated move. Saren has no idea why Saphira would send her there. Perhaps it is a final humiliation, a way to parade her in front of the realm before she disappears into the Drax stronghold. Perhaps it is simply cruelty for cruelty's sake. Either way, she will go. She will walk into that gathering with her spine straight and her chin lifted, because dignity is the only thing she has left. and she will not give it up without a fight. That night, Saren stands at her window and stares at the moon. It hangs low and bright over the mountains, casting silver light across the frozen landscape. Somewhere beneath that same moon, wolves are gathering. Somewhere, decisions are being made that will determine the course of her life. And somewhere, though she doesn't know it yet, an alpha king is watching the same moon and wondering why his wolf will not settle. The moon court is a circle of ancient stone pillars that rise from the earth like the bones of a forgotten god. Each pillar is carved with symbols older than the current pack lines, runes that glow faintly when the moon is full. Torches burn in iron sconces, their flames whipping in the mountain wind, and the ground beneath them has been worn smooth by centuries of paws and boots. Tonight, the court is alive with sound. Drums beat a slow, primal rhythm. Wolves howl in the distance, their voices echoing across the peaks. The air smells of smoke, pine, and the sharp metallic tang of power. Saren arrives as the sun dips below the horizon, the sky bleeding purple and gold. She wears a simple black gown, unadorned and plain, with no pack crest on her throat and no jewelry to mark her status. She has no escort, no entourage, no one to announce her arrival. She walks alone through the gates of the moon court and feels every eye turn toward her. The whispers start immediately. Is that her? The barren widow Drax is buying? Why is she even here? She smells like loss. Look at her. No crest, no mark. She's already been erased. Saren keeps walking. Her hands are steady at her sides, her spine straight, her gaze fixed on the center of the court. She will not give them the satisfaction of seeing her falter. She will not let them see the fear coiling in her chest, the humiliation burning in her throat. The court is filled with wolves from every corner of the realm. Alphas in rich furs and polished leather, their mates draped in silk and jewels. Betas moving through the crowd with trays of food and drink. Omegas clustered in small groups, their heads bowed, their voices low. And there, standing near the far edge of the court, is Ronan Drax. He is a large wolf, broad-shouldered and scarred, with dark hair pulled back from a face that might have been handsome if not for the coldness in his eyes. He watches Saren with the detached interest of someone inspecting a purchase, and when their gazes meet, he smiles. It is not a kind smile. Saren looks away. Near the center of the court, a group of she-wolves are gathered, their laughter bright and sharp. Lyra Quinn, with her golden hair and perfect features. Kaya Rowan, whose family controls the eastern trade routes. Amara Wynn, who has been angling for a royal match since she was old enough to understand what power meant. They are all beautiful, all powerful, all dressed in gowns that shimmer like moonlight, and they are all watching the dais. The obsidian dais rises at the northern edge of the court, a platform of black stone polished to a mirror shine. Silver banners hang behind it, bearing the crest of the Frost bloodline, and on the dais sits a single throne carved from ice and stone. Nathaniel Frost, Alpha King, sits perfectly still. He is everything an Alpha King should be. Broad shoulders draped in dark fur, silver eyes that seem to see through skin and bone, a face carved from sharp angles and cold beauty. There is a scar along his jaw, a pale line that runs from his ear to his chin, and his hair is dark as midnight, falling just past his collar. He does not smile. He does not move. He simply watches the court with the kind of stillness that makes lesser wolves nervous. Saren has seen him before, from a distance, at formal gatherings where she stood at the back of the crowd and tried not to be noticed. She has heard the stories. Nathaniel Frost is brilliant and ruthless, a king who rules with icy fairness and no mercy for weakness. He has never taken a mate, despite decades of eligible she-wolves throwing themselves at his feet. He has never shown interest in anyone, never let anyone close enough to touch the man beneath the crown. He is untouchable, unreachable. And yet, as Saren crosses the moon court, his gaze shifts. It happens so subtly that most wolves don't notice. One moment he is scanning the crowd with distant disinterest. The next, his eyes lock on her. Saren feels it like a physical touch, a weight pressing against her skin. Her wolf stirs, a low rumble in her chest, confused and wary. She doesn't look at him. She can't. She keeps walking, head high, toward the center of the court where the drummers have begun a new rhythm. She can feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her from all sides. The pack sees a barren widow being paraded before her sale. They see weakness, failure, a wolf with no value. Nathaniel sees something else. He scents her across the court. Grief, yes, sharp and lingering. Iron, like old blood. But beneath it, something unexpected. Defiance. Not loud, not aggressive, but present. a quiet refusal to break, even when the world is doing everything it can to shatter her. His wolf reacts, a sharp pull of interest that he immediately tries to suppress. He has trained himself to ignore attraction, to push aside anything that might distract him from ruling. But this is different. This is not attraction. This is recognition. He knows what it looks like when someone is drowning but refuses to scream for help. He sees it in the way she holds herself, in the careful control of her breathing, in the slight tremble in her hands that she hides by clenching them at her sides. The court doesn't see her. He does. Nathaniel rises from his throne. The movement is so unexpected that the entire court falls silent. Drums falter. Conversations die mid-sentence. Every wolf turns to watch as the Alpha King descends the obsidian steps, his fur cloak sweeping behind him like shadow. He crosses the court in long, measured strides, his gaze fixed on Seren. She realizes he's coming toward her a moment too late. Her heart slams against her ribs, her wolf whining in confusion. She has no idea what this means, no idea what he wants, but she cannot move, cannot breathe. He stops in front of her. Up close, he is overwhelming. Taller than she expected, broader, his presence like standing too close to a fire. His scent hits her, pine and winter frost, and something darker, richer, that makes her wolf press close to the surface of her skin. "Seren Dune," he says quietly, but the entire court can hear. She nods, not trusting her voice. "This gathering means nothing," he continues, his silver eyes holding hers. "If the only wolf with a spine walks alone," then he offers his hand. The court explodes in whispers. Seren stares at his outstretched hand, her mind racing. This is the Alpha King. This is Nathaniel Frost, who has refused every advance, every offer, every attempt to draw him into intimacy or alliance, and he is offering his hand to her, to the Barren widow, to the Omega the pack has already discarded. She doesn't understand, but she knows, with sudden, sharp clarity, that this moment matters, that whatever happens next will change everything. She places her hand in his fingers close around hers, warm and strong, and a spark of heat races up her arm. Her wolf surges, awake for the first time in months, and she sees his eyes flash silver bright in response. He leads her onto the dance circle. The drummers pick up their rhythm, low and steady, like a heartbeat. Other wolves have begun to dance, moving in slow, ceremonial patterns, but no one comes close to where Nathaniel and Seren stand. They are given space, as if the court instinctively understands that something significant is happening. Nathaniel's hand settles at her waist, firm and possessive. His other hand holds hers, fingers laced together. Seren's free hand rests on his shoulder, and she can feel the tension in his muscles, the coiled strength just beneath the surface. They begin to move. It is not a soft, romantic dance. It is controlled, deliberate, every step precise. His grip on her waist tightens when she stumbles slightly, steadying her, and she forces herself to focus, to match his rhythm. At one point, he turns her, his hand sliding from her waist to the small of her back, and his thumb brushes against bare skin where her dress dips low. The touch is electric. Seren gasps, her body flooding with heat. Her wolf rumbles, confused and desperate, pressing toward him. She feels his breath hitch, sees the way his jaw tightens, and realizes he felt it too. His thumb moves again, a slow, deliberate stroke across the base of her spine, right where a mate mark should be. Her knees nearly buckle. Nathaniel leans closer, his lips near her ear. "Breathe." She obeys, dragging air into her lungs. Her heart pounding so hard she's sure he can feel it. The dance ends. The drums fall silent. They stand in the center of the court, still touching, his hand warm against her back, her fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. The entire realm is watching. Nathaniel steps back slowly, releasing her, and the loss of contact feels like a wound. He turns to face the crowd, his expression unreadable, and when he speaks, his voice carries across the stone pillars. "Ronan Drax." Ronan stiffens, his expression darkening. "The trade agreement you made with Saphira Dune is void." Shock ripples through the court. Ronan takes a step forward, his hands clenched. "With respect, Alpha King, the debt is settled." Nathaniel interrupts, his tone cold and absolute. "Seren Dune is under my protection now. Any claim you had is forfeit." Ronan's face flushes with anger, but he doesn't argue. No wolf argues with Nathaniel Frost. Nathaniel turns back to Seren, his silver eyes softer now, though still guarded. "You will come to Frosthold as my guest. Not as anyone's property." Seren's breath catches. She doesn't understand what's happening, doesn't know why he's doing this, but she nods because there is no other answer. Yes, Alpha King. Verse, Nathaniel, he corrects quietly. My name is Nathaniel. Then he walks away, back to the obsidian dais, leaving her standing in the center of the court with her heart racing and her wolf howling in confusion. The whispers explode around her. Did he just claim her? The barren widow? He's never looked at anyone like that. What does this mean? Saren doesn't have answers. She only knows that her fate, which seemed sealed hours ago, has just been rewritten in front of the entire realm. And the Alpha King everyone desired just chose her. The obsidian chamber is carved deep into the heart of Frosthold, a private space where kings meet with those they trust, where decisions that shape the realm are made in secret. The walls are black stone shot through with veins of silver, and torches burn in iron brackets, casting dancing shadows across the floor. Saren stands in the center of the chamber, her hands clasped in front of her, her heart still racing from the events at the Moon Court. She has been brought here by silent guards who walked her through corridors she's never seen before, up staircases that spiral into the mountain's core, until they stopped at a heavy door and gestured for her to enter. Nathaniel is already inside. He stands near a table covered in maps and documents, his fur cloak discarded, wearing only a dark shirt and leather pants, without the formal trappings of kingship. He looks younger, more human, though no less intimidating. His silver eyes track her as she enters, and she feels the weight of his attention like a physical presence. Sit, he says, gesturing to a chair near the fireplace. Saren sits, her posture rigid, her mind racing with questions she doesn't know how to ask. Nathaniel remains standing, studying her for a long moment before he speaks. I'm going to be direct with you, Saren. I stopped the trade with Drax because I will not allow wolves to be sold like property in my realm. But I also did it because I need you. Her eyebrows rise. Need me? The packs are fracturing, he says, his voice low and serious. The highborn families have grown too comfortable with cruelty. Omegas are treated as disposable. Weaker wolves are discarded. The system I inherited is broken, and I've been trying to fix it from the top down for years, with little success. He moves closer, his gaze intense. You are proof of what's wrong. A widow punished for grief, blamed for things beyond her control, sold to settle a debt she didn't owe. If I let that happen, I'm complicit. If I do nothing, I'm endorsing the system that destroyed you. Saren's throat tightens. So, this is about making a point. Partially. He crouches in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. But it's also about survival. The realm needs someone who understands what it's like to be powerless. Someone the Omegas and Forgotten Wolves will trust. Someone who can reach the parts of this kingdom I can't. You want me to be a symbol, she says quietly. I want you to be my queen. The words hang in the air between them, heavy and impossible. Saren shakes her head. You're not what they expect, he interrupts. Good. I don't want what they expect. I want someone who will fight for the wolves no one else sees. Someone who won't sit silently while injustice happens. Someone who has already survived more cruelty than most wolves will face in a lifetime and is still standing. He reaches out, his fingers brushing hers where they rest on her knee. I will mark you as my mate. I will give you my protection, my authority, my name. In return, you will be my ally and counsel, my partner in reshaping this realm. You will speak for the wolves who have no voice. You will help me build something better. Saren's mind reels. You're asking me to enter a political marriage. Yes, with no love, no real bond. His expression doesn't change. I can't promise love. I don't know if I'm capable of it anymore, but I can promise respect, partnership, and safety. You will never be sold again. Never be discarded. Never be called barren as if it defines your worth. Saren looks down at their hands, at the way his fingers rest against hers, warm and steady. She thinks about the alternative, being sent to Ronan Drax, being used until she breaks, being erased completely. This is not a fairy tale. This is survival dressed up in royal titles. But it's still survival. And maybe, in the spaces between duty and politics, there is room for something more. I have a condition, she says quietly. Nathaniel's expression shifts, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Name it. You can own my title, Nathaniel Frost. You can put your mark on my skin and call me queen in front of the realm, but you will never own my silence. She lifts her gaze to meet his, and her voice is steady. I will not be your ghost in a pretty dress. If I do this, I do it as your equal, not your ornament. For a long moment, he doesn't respond. Then, slowly, A small smile curves his lips. It's the first real expression she's seen from him, and it transforms his face, softening the hard edges. Agreed. He stands, offering his hand. She takes it, and he pulls her to her feet. The bonding will happen tomorrow night, he says. Under the moon, in the temple. It will be formal, witnessed by the elders. After that, you will move into the east wing of Frosthold. Not your chambers? She asks before she can stop herself. His gaze darkens slightly. Not yet. We both need time to adjust. This is a partnership, Saren. Not a cage. She nods, relieved and oddly disappointed at the same time. The bonding ceremony takes place in the Moon Temple, a structure carved into the mountainside with a ceiling open to the sky. Silver moonlight pours through the opening, illuminating the stone altar where a priestess waits, her face hidden beneath a ceremonial hood. Saren wears a white gown, simple and unadorned, her hair loose around her shoulders. Nathaniel stands beside her in formal robes, his expression calm and distant. The ceremony is ancient, the words spoken in the old tongue. The priestess calls to the moon, asks for blessings, then gestures for them to step forward. Nathaniel takes Saren's hand. His palm is warm against hers, and she feels the faint hum of his wolf beneath his skin. Curious and wary, the priestess binds their wrists together with a silver cord, then places her hand over theirs. By the moon's light, by the pack's witness, by the bond that joins wolf to wolf, I name you mated. Nathaniel leans down, his lips brushing the side of Saren's neck, right where a mate mark should be. His teeth graze her skin, gentle but present, and she feels the sharp sting as he bites down. The mark blooms, a faint silver glow spreading across her skin, and the bond snaps into place. It's not the overwhelming, soul-deep connection she felt with Kaelin. It's lighter, more like a tether than a fusion. She can feel Nathaniel's presence at the edge of her awareness, a steady, controlled pulse, but it doesn't consume her. He pulls back, his eyes meeting hers, and she sees the faint surprise there. He felt it too. The bond is real, but distant, as if both their wolves are holding back. The priestess releases their wrists, and the ceremony is over. They are mated. Saren moves into the east wing of Frosthold the next day. Her new rooms are larger, warmer, with thick carpets and a fireplace that actually works. Servants bring her meals, though they still seem uncertain how to address her. Some call her Luna, some call her Lady Dune, some don't call her anything at all. The first days are strange, marked by a careful distance between her and Nathaniel. They share meals in a long dining hall, sitting at opposite ends of a table that could seat 20. They speak in polite, measured tones about neutral topics, the weather, the state of the roads, the upcoming harvest. But there are moments when his hand brushes hers as he passes her the salt, and the touch lingers a second too long. Moments when she catches him watching her from across the room, his silver eyes dark and thoughtful. Moments when they stand together by the fire after dinner, talking in low voices about the petitions he's received, the complaints from the lower dens, the rumors spreading through the packs. One night, a storm rolls through the mountains, shaking the fortress with thunder and wind. Saren can't sleep. She makes her way to the library, a vast room lined with shelves that climb to the ceiling, and curls up in a chair by the window with a book she's not really reading. She doesn't hear Nathaniel enter. When she finally notices him, he's standing a few feet away, watching her with an unreadable expression. His hair is damp, as if he walked through the rain, and his shirt clings to his shoulders. Can't sleep? He asks. The storm, she says, though it's only partly true. He crosses the room, draping his cloak over her shoulders. The fabric is heavy and warm, and it smells like him. Pine and frost and something darker that makes her wolf hum. His fingers brush the bare skin at the back of her neck as he adjusts the cloak, and she feels a shiver race down her spine. His touch lingers, his thumb tracing the edge of her mate mark, and the sensation is electric, forbidden, too much, and not enough all at once. You should rest, he says quietly, his voice rough. So should you. He doesn't move. Neither does she. Finally, he steps back, the moment breaking, and leaves the library without another word. Saren sits in the dark, wrapped in his cloak, her skin still tingling from his touch, and wonders how long they can keep pretending this is purely political. Saren refuses to sit idle in her new rooms while the rest of Frosthold moves around her. She has seen the way highborn wolves live, the way they drape themselves in silk and jewels and pretend the lower dens don't exist. She will not be one of them. On her third morning as queen in name, she leaves the East Wing, and walks deeper into the fortress than she's ever been allowed before. Past the formal chambers, past the training yards, down stone staircases that spiral into the mountain's belly where the air grows colder and the torchlight grows dim. This is where the forgotten wolves live. The lower dens are cramped and dark, carved into the rock with barely enough space for sleeping pallets and small fires. The air smells of sweat and damp stone and old sickness. Wolves huddle in corners, their eyes dull, their bodies thin. These are the Omegas, the wounded, the packless, the ones no one wants to see. Saren moves through the dens slowly, her presence drawing wary glances. She stops to speak with an older Omega named Aveline Mora, whose mate died in the same raid that took Kaelin. Aveline scrubs floors in the upper halls now, invisible and exhausted. "I didn't think anyone up there remembered we existed," Aveline says quietly. "I remember," Saren replies, "and I'm going to make sure others do too." She meets Naraya Vale, a young Omega with healing scars across her arms, injuries she sustained during a forced shift when she wasn't ready. Naraya keeps her head down, her voice barely a whisper, but Saren sees the intelligence in her eyes, the potential that's been smothered by fear. She finds Rowena Kale in a corner den, an old she-wolf who was once a seer but has been dismissed as mad. Rowena rocks back and forth, muttering prophecies no one listens to, and when Saren sits beside her, the old wolf grabs her wrist. "You carry the moon's light," Rowena whispers, "but they will try to snuff it out. Don't let them, child. Don't let them." Saren squeezes her hand gently. "I won't." She returns to the upper halls and begins making quiet demands. She redirects food shipments to the lower dens. She pulls Isolde Marin, one of the senior healers, aside and asks her to spend more time below. She speaks with Taryn Holt and Alden Price, two of Nathaniel's trusted betas, and negotiates safer patrol rotations for Omegas who shift late or have injuries. At first, the changes are small, almost unnoticeable. But slowly, word spreads. The new queen isn't like the others. She walks among them. She listens. She cares. The highborn wolves notice too, and they are not pleased. Lyra Quinn corners Saren in a hallway one afternoon, her perfect face arranged in a condescending smile. "It's adorable, really, how you're playing at charity. But queens don't belong in the dirt, darling. Leave the lower wolves to the servants." Saren meets her gaze evenly. "Queens belong wherever their people need them." Lyra's smile falters, and she walks away with a tight expression. Nyra Hale and Nissa Vale start spreading rumors in the council chambers, whispering that Saren is undermining the hierarchy, rallying Omegas against the established order, using sympathy to manipulate the weak-minded. Lucienne Thorne and Merrick Voss, both influential alphas with traditional views, approach Nathaniel directly with complaints. "She's unsettling the balance," Lucienne says, his tone sharp. "Omegas are getting ideas above their station. If this continues, we'll have chaos." Nathaniel listens in silence, his expression unreadable, then dismisses them without comment. But he starts appearing in places he never went before. He shows up in the mission hall when Saren is organizing a distribution of winter supplies. He walks through the infirmary when she's helping Isolde treat a young wolf with a broken leg. He stands at the edge of the rain-slick yard when she kneels beside a crying child whose wolf won't shift, her hand gentle on the child's back as she murmurs soft reassurances. He watches her, and something in his chest tightens. She is not playing at compassion. This is who she is. Steady, patient, unflinching in the face of suffering. She doesn't look away from pain. She moves toward it, and his wolf, which has been quiet and controlled for decades, responds to her in ways he doesn't fully understand. One afternoon, Saren is in the training yard practicing with a dagger. She's clumsy, her grip wrong, her stance uncertain. She's been at it for an hour, determined to learn how to defend herself, but frustration is setting in. Nathaniel crosses the yard, moving silently until he's behind her. He doesn't announce himself. He simply reaches out, his hands settling on her hips, correcting her stance. Saren freezes, her breath catching. "Your balance is off," he says quietly, his voice low and close to her ear. "Shift your weight here." His hands guide her, firm and warm, and she can feel the heat of him against her back. "Now your grip." His fingers wrap around hers on the dagger hilt, adjusting her hold. "Don't strangle it. Let it be an extension of your arm." He steps even closer, his chest brushing her shoulders, his breath warm against her neck. "And don't lower your eyes. Ever. If you're going to fight, you look them in the face." Saren's heart is pounding so hard she's certain he can feel it. Her wolf is rumbling, confused and desperate, pressing toward him. His scent surrounds her, sharp and intoxicating, and she feels his body tense behind her, his grip on her hands tightening slightly. For a moment, neither of them moves. The air between them is charged, electric, thick with something neither is willing to name. Then Nathaniel steps back, releasing her, and the cold air rushes in where his warmth had been. "Practice that," he says, his voice rougher than before. Then he walks away, leaving her standing alone in the yard with her skin still tingling and her mind spinning. That night, Saren lies awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She can still feel his hands on her hips, his breath on her neck, the way his body had felt solid and warm against hers. The bond between them hums faintly, a reminder that he's somewhere in the fortress, awake, maybe thinking about her too. This was supposed to be political, practical, a partnership with clear boundaries. But boundaries are starting to blur, and Saren doesn't know if that terrifies her or if it's the first thing in months that's made her feel truly alive. The tension in Frosthold shifts as the weeks pass. The highborn wolves grow bolder in their disdain, and the lower wolves grow bolder in their hope. Saren moves between both worlds, trying to bridge a gap that feels impossibly wide, and Nathaniel watches it all with increasing frustration. He sees the way the council dismisses her, the way Lyra Quinn and her circle mock her behind painted smiles, the way rumors spread that she's manipulating him, using pity and softness to gain power she doesn't deserve. He also sees the way she refuses to break. One evening, there is a formal dinner in the Great Hall. The long table is filled with highborn families, their voices loud and sharp, their laughter cutting. Saren sits beside Nathaniel, her posture perfect, her expression calm. Nissa Vale, emboldened by wine, leans forward and says in a voice loud enough for half the table to hear, "Of course, a kingdom truly needs a queen who can promise heirs. Stability requires legacy, does it not?" The words land like a blade. Saren's hands tighten on her fork, but her expression doesn't change. "Legacy," she says quietly, "is built on more than bloodlines." "Perhaps," Nissa replies with a cold smile, "but bloodlines do matter. They always have." Nathaniel's jaw tightens, and he opens his mouth to speak, but Saren touches his wrist gently, stopping him. She doesn't need him to fight this battle for her. Not here. Not now. She finishes her meal in silence and excuses herself early, retreating to the Moon Chapel. The chapel is a small, sacred space carved into the mountain, open to the sky, with an altar of white stone at its center. Candles burn along the walls, their flames flickering in the cold wind. Saren lights more candles, her hands shaking slightly, and kneels before the altar. She stays there for a long time, her mind tangled with memories she's tried to bury. Kaelin, the pregnancy, Saphira's cruelty, the night she lost the pup and bled alone on cold stone. She hears footsteps behind her and knows without looking that it's Nathaniel. He doesn't speak at first. He simply sits beside her on the cold floor, his presence solid and grounding. "You don't have to stay," she says quietly. "I know." They sit in silence for several minutes, the candles casting dancing shadows on the walls. Finally, Nathaniel speaks. "What does Barren really mean to you?" Saren's breath catches. She's never told anyone the full truth. Not even Kaelin knew all of it. But Nathaniel is here, and his presence feels safe in a way she didn't expect, and the words start spilling out before she can stop them. "I was pregnant once," she whispers, "with Kaelin. It was early, maybe 2 months, but I knew. I felt it." She wraps her arms around herself, her voice breaking. Saphira found out. She didn't celebrate. She didn't prepare. She just pushed harder. Made me stand for hours at court, attend every function, never rest. I begged her to let me stop, to let me take care of myself. But she said Dune women don't hide from duty. Nathaniel's hands clench at his sides, his wolf snarling beneath his skin. "I miscarried during a moon feast. I made it to a hallway before I collapsed. I bled alone on the stone floor, biting my wrist to keep from screaming, and no one came for an hour. By the time the healer found me, it was over. The pup was gone." Her voice drops to barely a whisper. "The healer said my body might heal. My heart. She didn't know." "And Saphira?" Nathaniel's voice is cold, deadly. "She never apologized, never acknowledged it. She just started calling me Barren, and the pack followed. They made my grief into proof of failure. They turned my loss into a weapon." Nathaniel is silent for a long moment, his breathing harsh. Then he moves, kneeling in front of her, his hands hovering near her face. "You are not broken," he says, his voice rough and fierce. "Do you hear me, Saren? You are not broken. They are. The system that values omegas only for breeding is broken. The pack that punished you for grieving is broken. Saphira Dune is a monster, and what she did to you was unforgivable. His hand lifts, trembling slightly, and cups her cheek. His thumb brushes away a tear she didn't realize had fallen. You are strong. You are powerful. And anyone who tries to convince you otherwise is a liar. Saren's breath hitches. She stares at him, at the raw honesty in his silver eyes, and feels something inside her chest crack open. The bond between them flares, no longer distant, suddenly hot and bright and frighteningly real. She doesn't think. She just leans forward, closing the space between them, and presses her forehead to his. Nathaniel goes still, his breath mingling with hers, his hand still cupping her face. His other hand finds her waist, fingers curling into the fabric of her dress, holding her close. They stay like that for a long moment, breaths shared, bodies trembling, the air between them crackling with tension. Then Nathaniel's fingers slide into her hair, his grip firm but gentle, and he tilts her head back slightly, his gaze locking on hers. "Saren," he whispers, and there's a question in his voice. She answers by closing the last inch between them. The kiss is soft at first, tentative, as if they're both afraid it might shatter. But then his lips part, and hers follow, and the kiss deepens. His hand tightens in her hair, her fingers curl into his shirt, and the bond between them blazes to life. Heat floods her body, her wolf howling in triumph. She feels his wolf respond, a low growl vibrating through his chest, and his grip on her waist tightens, pulling her closer. The kiss grows more urgent, more desperate. His mouth moves against hers with a hunger that steals her breath, and she meets him with equal intensity, pouring months of loneliness and grief and longing into the contact. His lips trail from her mouth to her jaw, down to the mark on her neck, and when his teeth graze the sensitive skin there, she gasps, her hands fisting in his hair. "Nathaniel," she breathes, and the sound of his name on her lips makes him shudder. He pulls back slightly, his breathing harsh, his forehead resting against hers. "We should stop. I don't want to stop." His eyes flash silver, his wolf pressing close to the surface. "If we don't stop now, I won't be able to." Before she can respond, there's a sharp knock on the chapel door, followed by a voice calling urgently, "Alpha King, you're needed in the council chamber. Border dispute." Nathaniel closes his eyes, a low curse slipping from his lips. He presses one more kiss to her forehead, lingering, then pulls away and stands. "I have to go." Saren nods, her body still trembling, her lips swollen from his kiss. He pauses at the door, looking back at her with an expression so raw it takes her breath away. "This isn't over," he says quietly. Then he's gone, leaving her alone in the chapel with her heart racing and her skin still burning from his touch. Saren sits in the flickering candlelight, her fingers touching her lips, and knows with absolute certainty that everything between them has changed. The bond is no longer a tether. It's a fire, and neither of them is strong enough to put it out. The days following the chapel kiss are marked by a tension so thick it feels like the air before a storm. Saren and Nathaniel move around each other carefully, their interactions polite and controlled in public, but charged with an undercurrent that everyone can feel even if they don't understand it. The council notices, the pack notices, and the highborn wolves who have been quietly working to undermine Saren decide it's time to act. Naira Hale, Nissa Vale, and Lucian Thorne present themselves at a formal council session with what they call evidence of instability. They claim Saren has been rallying Omegas against the established hierarchy, encouraging disobedience, and using her position to undermine traditional pack structure. "She is dangerous," Lucien says, his voice calm but cutting. "She may present as compassionate, but what she's really doing is sowing discord. Omegas who once knew their place are now questioning authority. The lower dens are becoming restless. If this continues, we will have rebellion," Naira adds, with false concern. "We understand the Alpha King's desire to appear benevolent, but surely there are better ways to achieve reform than through someone so controversial." The council murmurs in agreement. Even some of the more moderate members look uncertain. Nathaniel sits at the head of the table, his expression cold and controlled. He listens without interrupting, his silver eyes scanning each face, noting who nods along with the accusations. When they finish, silence falls. Nathaniel stands slowly, his presence commanding immediate attention. "You're right," he says quietly. "There is instability in this realm." Several council members lean forward, encouraged, but it's not because of Saren. His voice hardens, and the temperature in the room seems to drop. The instability comes from a system that treats omegas as property, that punishes grief and calls it weakness, that allows powerful families to abuse wolves who have no voice and then blames those wolves when they finally ask for help. He turns his gaze on Lucien. You speak of rebellion, I speak of justice. If you find those two ideas threatening, then perhaps you should examine why. Lucien's face flushes, but he says nothing. Nathaniel continues, his tone glacial. Saren has done more for the forgotten wolves of this realm in a few weeks than most of you have done in your entire lives. She's reduced crime in the lower dens. She's improved health outcomes. She's created systems that allow weaker wolves to survive winter without starving. He leans forward, his hands flat on the table. If you have a problem with that, if you find compassion and basic decency destabilizing, then I suggest you consider whether your vision of order is worth preserving. He straightens, his gaze sweeping the room. And let me be very clear. Saren is not just my queen in name. She is my chosen partner. Any attack on her is an attack on me. Any attempt to undermine her will be met with consequences. If you have concerns, bring them to me directly. If you spread rumors or attempt to sabotage her work, I will consider it treason. The council sits in stunned silence. Nathaniel dismisses them with a gesture, and they file out quickly, avoiding his gaze. When the room is empty, Nathaniel finds Saren waiting in the corridor outside. She heard everything through the door. You didn't have to do that, she says quietly. Yes, I did. He steps closer, his hand finding hers. I'm done pretending this is purely political. I'm done keeping distance because it's safer. You are mine, Saren, not as property, not as a political tool. You're mine because I choose you. Her breath catches. Nathaniel, I'm not finished. His other hand cups her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. You've changed me. You've made me see what I've been blind to for years. You've made me want things I thought I'd given up on. And I will not let anyone take that away. He leans down, his forehead resting against hers. I don't know if I'm good at love. I don't know if I can give you everything you deserve, but I can give you honesty, partnership, and a kingdom that sees you the way I do. Saren's eyes fill with tears. How do you see me? As the strongest wolf I've ever known. As the woman who refused to break even when the world tried to shatter her. As my queen. My partner. My choice. He kisses her then, slow and deep, and the bond between them burns bright and true. When they pull apart, Saren whispers, I choose you too. The blood moon gathering happens 3 weeks later. A formal event held under a red moon that only rises once every few years. The realm assembles at the moon court, every pack represented, every alpha and elder present. Saren walks in on Nathaniel's arm, wearing a gown of deep burgundy that shimmers like blood under the moonlight. Her hair is braided with silver thread, and on her throat, the mate mark glows faintly. She is no longer the discarded widow in a plain black dress. She is a queen. The court falls silent as they enter. Nathaniel leads her to the center of the stone circle, where the obsidian dais has been replaced by a simple platform open to the sky. He turns to face the crowd, his voice carrying across the court. This realm was built on strength, but we've forgotten that strength comes in many forms. We've confused power with cruelty, dominance with justice. Tonight, I'm here to remind you of something we've lost. He takes Saren's hand, lifting it so everyone can see. This is Saren Frost, keeper of the pack's heart. Gasps ripple through the crowd. The title is ancient, rarely used, reserved for those who serve the realm not through force but through compassion. She has done more for this kingdom in 2 months than most of us have done in lifetimes. She has healed the wounded, fed the hungry, given voice to the voiceless. She has shown me, and all of you, what it means to lead with honor. He turns her wrist upward, exposing the mate mark that glows silver bright. Then, in front of every alpha, every rival, every wolf who once dismissed her, he bends and presses his lips to the mark. The kiss is not soft. It is claiming, reverent, and absolutely intimate. Saren's breath hitches, her body flooding with heat as the bond flares between them, visible to everyone watching. His lips linger, his thumb stroking the sensitive skin of her inner wrist, and when he lifts his head, his silver eyes are blazing. She is mine, he says quietly, but every wolf hears. And I am hers. Anyone who questions that will answer to me. The court remains frozen for a heartbeat. Then, one by one, wolves begin to bow. First the omegas, then the lower-ranking wolves, then the betas. Finally, reluctantly, the highborn alphas follow. Saphira Dune, standing at the edge of the crowd, watches with a face like stone as the widow she tried to sell becomes the most powerful she-wolf in the realm. Nathaniel and Saren walk out of the court together, fingers intertwined, heads high, as the entire realm bows at their feet. Frosthold transforms slowly but steadily. The changes Saren began in the lower dens spread throughout the kingdom. Mission halls are built in every major settlement, places where wounded and forgotten wolves can find healing without shame. Laws are passed protecting omegas from forced bonds and punishing alphas who abuse their power. The highborn families adapt or fade into irrelevance. Saphira Dune lives in bitter isolation, her influence gone, her name a cautionary tale. Ronan Drax is bound by treaties that forbid the trade of wolves as property. Lyra Quinn and her circle learn to hold their tongues or face exile. And in the east wing of Frosthold, now connected to the king's chambers by a private corridor, Saren and Nathaniel build a life together. It is not perfect. They argue sometimes, about policy, about priorities, about the best way to help wolves who are suffering, but they always come back to each other, always find their way to honesty and partnership, and slowly, carefully, they build love. One spring morning, Saren stands on the terrace overlooking the mountains, a small boy balanced on her hip. He has Nathaniel's silver eyes and her dark hair, and he laughs as she points to the eagles circling overhead. A little girl races past them, chasing a butterfly, her wolf already visible in the way she moves, quick and wild and free. Nathaniel appears behind Saren, wrapping his arms around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. They're going to destroy the gardens before noon. Probably, Saren agrees, smiling. He presses a kiss to her temple, then her jaw, then the mark on her neck that still glows silver bright. She shivers, leaning back into him, and he holds her tighter. "Do you ever think about how we started?" she asks quietly. Every day, his voice is warm, content. The barren widow and the cold king. We weren't supposed to work, but we did, because you refused to accept the story they wrote for you, because you taught me what real strength looks like. He turns her in his arms, his hands framing her face. "You saved me, Saren. Long before I saved you." She kisses him, slow and sweet, and the bond between them hums with warmth and contentment. The little girl runs back, tugging on Nathaniel's sleeve. "Papa, Mama, come see!" They follow her down to the gardens, where Isolde Marin is teaching a group of young omegas how to identify healing herbs. Thalia Wren and Calla Riven are nearby, running a training session for wolves learning self-defense. Aveline Mora, no longer scrubbing floors, manages the mission hall scheduling with quiet efficiency. The kingdom is thriving. That evening, as the sun sets and the first stars appear, the bells of Frosthold begin to ring. It's the anniversary of Saren's proclamation as Keeper of the Pack's Heart, now celebrated every year. The bells ring across the mountains, their sound carrying for miles, a reminder of what changed and why. Saren and Nathaniel stand together on the highest terrace, the children asleep inside, the kingdom spread below them like a tapestry of light and shadow. "Do you ever regret it?" Nathaniel asks. Saying yes that night? Accepting a bond that started as politics? Saren turns to him, her hand finding his, their fingers lacing together as naturally as breathing. "Never. You gave me a choice when I thought I had none. You saw me when everyone else looked away. You built a partnership with me when you could have demanded submission." She squeezes his hand. "I was never barren, Nathaniel. I just needed someone who understood that my worth wasn't measured by what I could give them, but by who I already was." He pulls her close, his arms wrapping around her, and kisses her deeply, the bond blazing between them, as bright and steady as the moon above. The bells continue to ring, echoing across the realm, and every wolf who hears them knows the story. A widow the pack called broken became the queen who saved their hearts. A king everyone feared learned how to love, and together, they built something that would last far beyond their lifetimes. If Saren's story moved you, if you felt every moment of her journey from widow to queen, then make sure you're subscribed to Ariel Romance Library. We tell stories about women who refuse to be broken, and the love that finds them anyway. Hit that subscribe button and join us for the next one.